With the Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker. The future is feeling.
It may not be the streets of Detroit, but we are that close to Motor City. It's the Irish Hills of Michigan. It is Brooklyn, Michigan. The Michigan International Speedway now sitting for round 23 of the Shake and Bake Racing Buttkicker Cup Series here in 2023. 36 races in all this season, and this is the 23rd of them. After this week, it's 2 road courses at Indianapolis and Watkins Glen, then off to the Super Speedway at Daytona to wrap up the regular season and send 16 drivers towards the championship in this season's playoffs. Welcome to the Virtual Michigan International Speedway. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. I've got Zach Murtis alongside, and we're glad to be here on a, well, I was gonna say virtual Sunday night, but it is a real Sunday night here in the sim as we unload and get ready to go racing this afternoon. Let's take a look in sim at what we've got to contend with, of course, at the newly logoed Michigan International Speedway. Let's take a look at the track map this evening. Coming in 4 turns, of course, nothing to be surprised about there. It's a D-shaped oval here, Zach, but there is still a lot to talk about with this particular racetrack. Mostly about how darn fast this place is. Usually speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour. Of course, back in the day, they could run 215 nearly off into the corner in these stock cars, and don't even get me started on open wheel cars. They can run so much faster, but this is still one of the fastest tracks in NASCAR. Certainly one of the fastest tracks that is not Daytona or Talladega.
Absolutely. You had CART back in the day, I believe it was, that used to run speeds here upwards of 220 miles an hour. You had Jeff Gordon, not just a decade ago, set the all-time qualifying record here, which was a speed of about 214 miles an hour back in 2014 with the high horsepower, high downforce cars. This track is known to produce fast laps. And it's always apparent when you come here. They've put resin down on the track right now to help with grip. So it's been, at least on the real life side, one heck of a racetrack, and it's all the more present on the virtual side too. Big, wide turns, large sweeping corners. Track temp today is 104, so that means it's going to be a little slick with the air temp being about 83, a little mostly cloudy, about usual for iRacing around this type of a racetrack. I'm still waiting on the weather updates to come, but we'll see that another time, hopefully soon. But today, it's clear, it's sunny, it's fast, it's slick, and these guys are laying down very fast practice times, and we're already almost 2 minutes into qualifying. So, Andrew, I think we're going to see some of these guys start whipping out this qualifying trim and see what they're going to be able to pull tonight.
And it's certainly much better weather than we saw in today's NASCAR Cup attempt, where they had a lot of rain to combat with. So these guys don't have to worry about any kind of cooler temps. Certainly no water on the racetrack. That's always a good thing. It is, well, not clear skies, mostly cloudy technically, but definitely sunny here this virtual afternoon. Let's take a look at our point standings coming into this evening. A lot of drivers already locked in as we come into round 23 of 36. 4 races to go, including this evening, until the playoff cutoff. And you can see those spots are starting to dwindle. That said, there will still be plenty of drivers that point their way in. At worst, at fewest, I suppose, there will be 3 drivers to make it in on points. That means Brandon Sheffield, Lawrence Shaughnessy, they're pretty safe. Brian Traeger, John Jackson, I think it's John Jackson. Jason Jackson, 86 car, that's who it is. I don't know why I got John Jackson. Brian Traeger, Jason Jackson, they are kind of battling for that 12-13 spot to be kind of on the in or not. But even Ed Kane is not too far back, although he's kind of flirting in danger in case we get some random winners here these last few races of the regular season. Rocky Hartpence, Derek Whitford currently. They're in, but not by much. Anybody could win. Brian Watson can go to victory lane. Nick Barisi, Spencer Clark, Richard Elliott. Anybody could win, put themselves in, and knock one of those guys out.
Yeah, but looking at the entry list and looking at the point standings here, Brian Watson, I do not believe is here. Rocky Hartpence is not here.
Here's the interesting thing, and I don't have my mind fully wrapped around this. We do have substitute drivers, and I know there is a sub driver for Brian Watson, that being Jeff Marble, I believe, who is currently on pole as we stand in qualifying. We'll talk about that in just a moment. There is also a sub for Kevin Jadrosich. That's going to be James South in the 21 car. So there are 2 subs. They're not running the same car and paint scheme, so it's going to be very difficult to follow along with. We'll do our best, but it's very difficult when they don't run the same paint scheme, same car number, to keep that completely in line as Joshua Watson now goes to the top of the board. But that's going to help Brian Watson out a lot. Clearly Jeff Marble's got speed. He's currently now 2nd in qualifying. That's going to be a huge asset to that crew. taking a look there at the standings, we'll now move on over to the schedule. There's a lot to talk about here as well. Of course, Richmond was flexed over to Michigan, so instead of covering round 22 last week, we are covering, of course, round 23 this week. Then Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, we're back at Daytona at the end of August, and then we are out until Bristol, back for the Roval, back for Martinsville, back for Phoenix. So from after Daytona, after the red highlighted races, after Daytona, and into the playoffs, we are still covering rounds. It will be the cutoff rounds: Bristol, Charlotte, Martinsville, and then the finale at Phoenix. A lot of great racing ahead for us this season. Let's get into qualifying, though. Still a few cars out onto the racetrack, including Luke Doran in car number 5. Just went to second quick, and Zach, that bumps Jeff Marble down to the 3rd spot, who is, of course, running for Brian Watson. So a lot to try and keep straight here. Also, James South, not on track yet. He'll be qualifying for Kevin Jadrosich. We'll try and keep a kind of an idea on that as well. But really the big one is going to be Jeff Marble running for Brian Watson, since he's so close to the cut line. And yeah, Luke Doran already coming to the pit lane anyways, but practicing that pit entry got a little bit free.
Yeah, he was getting real sideways coming off of turn 4, and you can see Watts here in the 08 all the way down onto the apron, trying to get as low down as possible.
Ooh, that's pole by 1/1000th of a second.
That is insane.
What a lap time from Adrian Watts, just edging his teammate Joshua Watson. That is big time stuff there. Lawrence Shaughnessy now, lap number 2, opening up for the 9 car. Chris Wilhite is onto his first lap. Austin Derbyshire onto lap number 1 as well. And Shaughnessy, new car number font. There we go. That's what I was looking for. New number font on that number 9 car, trading out the Evernham 9 for the Casey Kane Red Bull Racing 9, and I really do enjoy that font. Up out of turn number 4, let's see what Shaughnessy can do on lap number 2. Lap 1, a 39.357, looking to try and beat a 38.233 for pole. It'll be close in the top 10, at least 7th spot.
That is definitely a good lap to lay down, so we can see the 7 here on track. Look at these guys. Look at how much they open up the apex and the entry going into 3 and 4. You don't want to run all the way down on the bottom. It scrubs off a lot of speed. Some guys like it, some guys don't. But coming down to the line, and that is going to be a 3.2.
It's quick. It's not pole. It's 3rd.
That is, yeah, that is 3rd by just under 25/100ths of a second. You can see here the 14.
James South.
There we go.
And again, he's running for Kevin Jadrosich today. So again, that sub situation kind of difficult to follow along with, but this is actually a very similar paint scheme to those that are run by Austin Derbyshire and such over at that team. So if anything, that'll help us kind of keep along with it. But South loose on the inside of 3 and 4. This is lap 2, and that's a header in the outside wall. That is that run done. He'll be starting from the rear of the field tonight as Alan Wilson is back on the racetrack.
Wilson and Whitford, the only 2 to have not set a time. Wilson actually just set his first time, about 6.5 tenths off of pole. He's coming down the back straightaway right now. I love these onboard shots rolling down the back straightaway. You can see just how the speed is going into turn number 3. This is what I'm talking about, to opening it up, not running all the way down on the bottom, just holding that middle lane. Let's see what he gets here coming to the line.
Out of turn number 2, or turn number 4 rather, down the front stretch. Let's see what it is across the line. A 38.299. That is good for 5th, it looks like, ahead of Jeff Marble, moving the 15 back to the 6th spot. And that means Brian Watson's qualifying effort is now effectively down to the 6th position. Still Darrell Whitford yet to qualify. We'll see if the 21 car heads out to the racetrack, but for now, that is it in qualifying. And Zach, worth taking a look at our Whiplash SimCam's race details. It's a 90-lap race with a stage at the completion of lap 45, but no caution. Very importantly, no caution for that stage, and that always trips me up, but we have a note of that in the broadcast doc. That's what it's for. No caution at the end of that stage. They race through it and still earn points. So that makes us a 2-stop race with a 75% fuel load at a 37 to 38 lap fuel window thereabouts. I suspect, though, these drivers will go about 35, maybe 36 laps, probably cut that a couple of laps shy, just to help them get in on slightly better tires and get back out on even better tires, kind of undercut that fuel window a little bit and run a little bit faster when they head back out onto the racetrack.
Absolutely, they've only got 3 sets of tires. It's a little similar to a super speedway. You know, Michigan, it's similar to Auto Club in the sense that it's a D-shaped oval and it's 2 miles and it's considered a super speedway. But the difference between Michigan and Auto Club is Michigan actually doesn't eat up tires that bad. So I think personally, if we have a bunch of short yellows, short runs, and we can just keep these guys on a good heat cycle with these tires, I think we're not going to see a lot of guys changing tires too much. I think if you come down to a late race restart with maybe 10 to go, you're still going to have guys that are going to have 1, maybe 2 sets left overall, depending on how they play their strategy. If we have a green race, then you're going to see a lot of tire changes.
There will be no qualifying run from Daryl Whitford today, meaning the 21 car, if he starts, will start from the rear of the field, and Adrian Watts will lead this field to the green. A big shout out, as always, to the Buttkicker, partnering with this series, the Shake and Bake Racing Cup Series, making it the Buttkicker Cup Series, brought to you by Shake and Bake Racing. Really enjoyable racing all season long so far. Of course, we've stopped it a few times to join these guys for their fun. Doing so this evening should be a very fun one this evening. Let's go on down and meet your starting grid, though, Zach. This is going to be an interesting set of 20 drivers as we get rolling off the grid this afternoon. Let's take a look on pole. Car number 08, Adrian Watts, in that powerhouse of Ryko cars. That there's 2 separate teams. We'll get more to that in a little bit. 2 separate teams that run Ryko setups, and boy, do they always dominate these races. Adrian Watts doing that in qualifying. Starting from the 2nd spot, Joshua Watson in that group as well. Starting 3rd, Chris Wilhite in car number 7 rolls off to the inside of Luke Doran in that number 5. Alan Wilson, who won way back at Las Vegas, he will start from 5th. Jeffrey Marble, who is running for Brian Watson's points this evening, will start from 6th. Way back in row number 4, finally some non-Ryko cars. It's Derek Whitford in 7th, Matthew Kleinschmidt, teammates with Austin Derbyshire, and some of those guys will roll off from the 8th spot. Starting from the 9th and 10th positions, Lawrence Shaughnessy and Brandon Sheffield.
Rolling on down outside the top 10, first one out looking in, Nick Barisi in the 66 and Victor Stank in the 68, starting 11th and 12th. Through the rest of the starting grid, we have Richard Elliott and Timothy Babcock 13th and 14th. I love that. That 02 starting in the 13th position, not biased or anything in any way. Edward Kane in the 15th position in the number 10, and Jason Jackson in the 86 starting 16th. Rolling on down through the rest of the grid, David Shively in Shively in the 85 starting 17th, and Austin Derbyshire in the 64. James South and Daryl Whitford in the 19th. And I think the graphics a little wonky there. It said 21st, but I believe that's the 20th position. Or excuse me, no, that is the 21st position.
Well, I believe Justin Levine is in the session, but has not made it into any session at all. And I believe he technically populated the 20th position, as there we go, cars rolling off of the grid this evening. Good to see everybody using, well, of course they have to use this grid. I love this grid here. I really do enjoy this grid here at Michigan. Michigan, Pocono, any other tracks that use this kind of thing as it gets added in, I love it.
Yeah, I love seeing how these guys line up on the racetrack on pit road. They line up on the racetrack at Charlotte, they line up on pit road at tracks like Texas, Michigan, Pocono. It's great. I'm so glad that, that iRacing added it in. It's been a really cool feature to see when it comes to these cars. There's a lot of great stuff that they added when it comes to just overall making these things cool, just amazing to look at. You've got the names on the inside to help with onboard cameras. It's great for broadcasters like us. You've got the lining up on pit road, all the cool little details with the pit stops and the flag stands. You know, Andrew, I'm just excited to see these guys go racing.
Absolutely. Let's recap our race details. Back to 90 laps, a stage at 45, no caution for that stage. We're expecting these drivers to pit anywhere from lap 30 to lap 35. 3 change sets of tires, and that importantly means that they could take their 2 pit stops and still have a set of tires at the end in case we have a late race caution. So they very well will be set up before the end of this race in case we get racy, in case we get one of those classic kind of finishes. Who knows as we get towards the restart zone here at Michigan. Thanks for joining us this evening for the Shake and Bake Racing Buttkicker Cup Series on Pit Stop TV. Down into the Geico restart zone, ready to get things kicked off. Michigan International Speedway style, we are racing in round 23. And already a big three-wide situation straight to the inside. Chris Wilhite making a big move. He won in Atlanta, and these guys are dooring each other through turns 1 and 2 already.
They are side by side down the backstretch. Look at them fanning out, just trying to figure out where they want to fall in. If anyone can get in, single file. Look at these guys. 2 cars only on the inside going down the back straightaway. Look at them rolling through turn 3. They are side by side still for the lead.
Here comes Joshua Watson, a run out of turn number 4. Chris Wilhite comes down to block. 1 lap complete. It's a big Ryko mess out front, but they're coming right back to him. Derek Whitford, a big run on the top side.
Yeah, Watson's still down on the inside. It looks like he is trying to take that lead away. Ooh, but Wilhite washes up the racetrack coming through turn number 2. And that big run that Whitford's getting off the top line, it is very, very powerful. Look at how close he's getting to Watson as they are now trying to find another way around Wilhite to the inside.
Shaughnessy going to help the 7 down low, the 9 running up into the 0-1 nearly. No contact, but boy was that close. And here comes Derek Whitford, lap number 2. A big run up to the 3rd spot, trying to find somewhere to go. We've got trouble in the back. Timothy Babcock, car 99, as Chris Wilhite, now Derek Whitford. He just rode on board with the fastest lap of the race thus far.
That was definitely a hard charge up to the front. You can see here the 99 limping down the front straightaway, and that would be Timothy Babcock.
And it is Babcock in the 99 car. We'll take a look back and see what happened to him. Watch this red 99 out of turn 4. Edward Kane down to the inside. And
oh, there it is. Ooh, just a hook.
Just got
Looks
into
like
him.
A little bit of a back into the wall, and these cars with the new damage model, they can take a bit more of a hit than they first could, but obviously there's still going to be a little bit of damage there, and he's going to have to take it down pit road and make sure that everything's all good. Taking another look at it here. Yeah, there's the contact, just a little bump, and rear end impact right here. Oh.
Right square on the camera. Glad it survived.
Yeah, this ain't a real Cup car where if the camera takes damage, it's not going to work anymore. We can still get all the great angles we want to, and you can see here Edward Kane on board. He might have to take that car down pit road as well, get a little bit of the nose checked, and hopefully they'll both be able to get back out there and still be competitive for the rest of the night.
We do have cars on the pit lane. Our leader's staying out, but first one in is Ed Kane in that number 10 car. Babcock comes in as well. Derbyshire back into the pit lane after starting from the pits, and James South now going to leave in the number 14. Derbyshire will now roll off and away, but no surprise that the 2 cars involved in our lap 2 accident will stay just a little bit longer. Those, of course, being Babcock and Kane. You can see a good bit of damage there to the right side. That's mostly where the damage was done to this 99 car.
Yeah, it's going to affect him. Maybe a little bit going down the straightaways, maybe a little bit in the corners. He may not be able to get back up to speed as much with the aero damage, but there he goes, out and away. Babcock back onto the racetrack, and he should be the last car out as Edward Kane is coming out of the pits as well. So that should, I believe, put us all cars back on track, and we should re-rack them, restack them, and get back on green.
That we will, although we do not yet have the one-to-go signal. So we can talk a bit more about this schedule and kind of races that we look most forward to. I think of the races that we have left on our broadcast schedule, there's 2 for me, those being Daytona and the Roval. But there isn't a bad race left at all in the calendar, in the races that we broadcast anywhere, especially the races we will be broadcasting the rest of the season. Daytona next up. Of course, there's not a bad storyline there. We covered their first race, opening the season up at Daytona way back in February. We'll be back in August later this month. Of course, Bristol's going to be a lot of fun. We could see some great classic short track racing. It's hard to say exactly how this car is going to race there until we get a little bit closer in case there's any patches or setup changes or anything like that. And of course, the Roval is going to be one heck of a bash on a oval road course combination. And finally, Martinsville and Phoenix. There's not a bad thing you can say about either one of those racetracks.
I love the Charlotte Roval. It's one of my favorite tracks on the schedule. Bristol is always great when it comes to just good old-fashioned classic short track racing. Martinsville is another great short track. I love how they are adapting the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and just it's always nice to see the personal spin on it when it comes to just how everybody races and how it comes down to on the iRacing sim. And I love the Charlotte Roval, so I cannot wait for us to cover that race. But Andrew, these guys are doubled up. We are 1 to green. In the words of Kyle McGowan, lights out coming to green. So let's just see how these guys go.
You see the whole field doubled up. We do now have the appearance of Justin Levine, albeit 3 laps down, in the number 33 Chevrolet Camaro, joining his teammate Matthew Kleinschmidt at the back end of the field. So that was that 20th car we were waiting on, and has now thankfully joined us. No Daryl Whitford, though, this evening. Car 21 not making it out of the pit lane. Into the Geico restart zone, the drivers will go here in the Shake and Bake Racing Buttkicker Cup Series. Checking up, ready to get back on the loud pedal. Green flag flies once again. We're back racing in Michigan. Single file top 3. First side-by-side is for 4th. Doran outside, Shaughnessy inside. Watts trying to look the middle.
It's a little bit of a wiggle back there with some of the guys that are running side by side. I'm not sure who that was, but they are still side by side, mainly throughout the field, as Watson is looking low, trying to see if he can take that lead away.
Watson to the inside of Wilhite. There's Whitford. There's Doran in line. Top 4 battling. Whitford a run. They're going to check up. Bottleneck into turn number 1. Here comes Adrian Watts to the inside. Contact. Wilson and Shaughnessy. Door banging down into turn number 1. Thankfully, no further issues. No further contact, really, as we're going to have a lead change, possibly. The 01 in the light blue to the inside. The Ryko number 01 of Joshua Watson nearly had an opportunity down the backstretch. Backed out slowly. Got back in line. I think these guys are going to need to play nicely. And of course, now that first caution, Zach, that's going to get them that much closer to making it to the stage on 1 stop. And that would help preserve track position. If you can make it to the stage, while it doesn't change the fact you'll still have to pit after that, and then one more time to get to the end of this race, it could help you save track position. It could really help your season.
Absolutely. And if we're not taking a yellow flag at the stage, then that's going to help these guys when it comes to just being able to keep their track position. Like you're saying, they can take their stop and hold on to it, not have to save as much gas towards the end. And I think Watson really needs to take a bit of a note, but it doesn't look like he is, as he is trying to take that lead away from Wilhite. It's so hard to take it away from the bottom, take it away on the bottom, because all these guys are single filed up on the top, and you can see here that Watson had the nose. He's not going to lead the lap, though. All those cars drafted on the outside lane, they are just going to drive on past him. I don't even know if he's going to be able to fall in line, but he is still committed to making that bottom work.
Love that metallic purple on the number 7, chrome number and all. But right now, I think the 01 looks a little better as far as speed. It's just a matter of where he can take it, as Wilhite wins the fight for the time being. Maybe Wilhite does have the car. It's hard to tell. It seems like it swings one car, this way, that way, each and every lap, as now Luke Doran has a big run on the outside, moving up to the 4th position ahead of the number 08 of Adrian Watts. And here comes the 79, here comes Wilson, here comes Sheffield of the 96 with a run.
That's the big thing about the bottom, Andrew. It's exactly what I was just talking about. You don't have any momentum down there. Everyone's drafting on the outside line, and you just either need to find a way in or see what you can do to make that car stick. Side draft, do whatever you can. As you can see here, Watson is making another attempt to go for that lead. He's going to stick it down there to the inside. all the way down to the yellow line. Can he clear Will Height, take that lead away? I don't think so, because here comes Whitford with a run, while simultaneously Will Height is going to get back around and lead the lap.
I think we're seeing, unless there's a disparity in tire advantage, I don't think you're going to be passing much on the bottom side of the track, at least not for the race lead. Although we're going to see an attempt here from Watson, trying to get way down there to the inside in 1 and 2. Will Height covers it up nicely, comes down to his door a little bit, and just covers up that attempt one more time, over and over. Watson tries, Will Height defends. It's not going to happen down low, at least not for the race lead. You've got to get to the top side of the racetrack in a battle.
I think Will Height is just really biding his time and saving tires, really, because you had Watson making moves for the last 3-4 laps, and here we go again, another move to the inside. It's burning up the tires a lot more. He has to put more wheel in it. He has to be off the throttle longer, yes, but he has to put more wheel in it, being on the bottom. These guys riding the top, they can ride in the draft, save fuel, save tires, not have to be all the way on the power. As you can see here, the Ryko car of Will Height is getting those great runs off the top and taking advantage of that draft that he has with Whitford and Doran.
And I wonder how much Whitford is sitting back and watching these two go after it, lap after lap, and just saving his stuff. Hopefully a lot. Hopefully the 44 is able to watch these guys and just kind of sit back right now, because he's kind of an underdog in this kind of mess of teammates out front, and Sheffield's trying to drive up to him and help him out. I'm going to reference, actually, Brandon Sheffield's help from a few races back at Atlanta. And admittedly, I have to scroll through my Discord messages for this. But as far as team assignments throughout the season, I got to pull this up. Over at, let's see, JBR Racing, you've got Joshua Watson, Brian Watson, Adrian Watts, Richard Elliott. So while the setups are shared at Ryko between Will Height and Watson, Will Height is over at Highside Motorsports with Shaughnessy, Wilson, and Doran. A big split in teams, and you're seeing that out front.
Yeah, what we're seeing now is the big split when it comes to the lead pack is 5 cars, including Watson, have jumped to the bottom line. 4 cars on top, 5 on the bottom, but the leaders are still side by side.
And it's interesting because Will Height's teammates are on the inside right now. Will Height is teammates with the 5, the 79, the 08, and now Will Height goes down to the inside. Blaze Pied Piper comes back up to the top. Watson is teammates actually with the 08 of Watts back there. Shaughnessy in the 9, the blue 9, is teammates with the red and black 79, the red and white 5, or the purple 7. So this is a really weird concoction of who's who in the zoo. And here comes Doran now to the inside of the 01. Watson has to check up. The 44 of Whitford has to check up. And the 44 of Whitford and the 96 of Sheffield are teammates. So this is a really weird setup. But now Will Height's able to get down there, help Doran, his teammate.
Yeah, this is where the super speedway aspect comes in as well, blocking both lanes, keeping these guys together and not separating them. Ooh. Almost a little bit of contact between Watson and Doran, but they are still side by side coming off of turn 4. And this is the one thing that Will Height is trying to do. He wants to bring his teammate up to battle with Watson to keep them side by side. It keeps him out in front, but he doesn't want to get too far out in front because the runs will form and he could lose that position also quickly. It's a big game that he's trying to play, but he's doing a good job playing it correctly.
Ooh, here comes Watson, maybe to the middle, not quite. Doran's still down low, and that's helping Highside Motorsports control this race right now. Doran and Wilson down on the bottom side. Will Height, of course, leading this race. And now 3 wide. Yes! Derek Whitford on the outside. An underdog story in the middle of all of this, just making it that much more fun. Putting it 3 wide and putting Watson in the middle. That's going to really, really hurt the 01.
Yep, he's going to the sucker spot now. It is going to be very tough for him to hold on to that spot with the little support he has. All the cars getting spread out. Ooh, Whitford up the racetrack a little bit. Watson with a run on the bottom. And the caution is out on the racetrack.
Big crash!
Big crash.
Doran and so many more. Wow, I see Doran, I see Shaughnessy, a very large part. I see Sheffield, a large part of this group taken out in one fell swoop.
And Doran is beached on the back straightaway. He might have gotten it going. He might have had to tow. Nope, he has gotten it going, but look at that front end damage.
Well, don't look now. Number 9. Number 9. Chevrolet Camaro fans, but yet again, the number 9 is in an accident at Michigan. Let's take a look back, and oh my goodness. Really big hit. Didn't really see all of it there, but this is a big one.
3, 4, maybe 5 cars involved from the looks of it, the replay. Another quick look at it here.
Watch the purple 08 Adrian Watts. Watch the 5 of Doran up the racetrack. And that got Doran loose, who came back up the track, hooked Sheffield. Oh, my goodness.
About 5 cars involved in that one. That was... Ooh, boy.
A couple of really close misses for several deeper in the field. This is a really messy scene out of turn number 2. Watch it again. This was the battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. All of it. Big contact for one of those Ford Mustangs. I think that was Nick Barisi in the 66.
Yeah, you can see him just rolling away there in the bottom hand of your screen. Taking another look at it here. This is on board with Nick Barisi in the 66.
Oh.
He's barely made a little bit of contact with Doran going by on the right-hand side. I don't know, actually, if he has too much damage. From the looks of our screens, it seems like he's okay.
It seemed like the damage in his car was centralized more so to the rocker panel on that machine. Let's watch it here from high above and look for the number 5 of Luke Doran in all of this. And this will be a really good kind of telltale. Got him loose, came up, got Sheffield, and oh my goodness. When you get in the wall like that, in the case of Luke Doran, the safer barrier really reaches out and grabs you and slows you down very suddenly.
It also takes a big hit on that engine, and he may not be very competitive the rest of the night.
Last replay, a look from Jason Jackson as he misses all of this narrowly in the case of a couple of cars. Thankfully gets by safely.
Unfortunately, we can't say the same for the 5 other that were involved in this incident.
No, we cannot. You can see one car in the pit lane. This is Luke Doran in the number 5 car. Still waiting on full service to conclude. Here comes another. This is Justin Levine, actually. Headed out of the pits in car number 33. Quick fuel stop there. And this, of course, bridges the gap now to the stage, which means these guys are trying to run through the end of stage number 1. But I think at that point, Zach, I would go ahead and pit right after stage 1. Go ahead and pit. You know you're going to have to pit anyways. That would kind of shorten things up. I don't think from here you can make this a one-stop race yet.
Not just yet.
Actually, no. I am silly. You can. It's gonna be a 70-lap run if you were to pit now, and these guys did. 70-lap run. What is half of 70?
About 35.
Yep, it is 35. Now, I say 30. I say it's gonna be a 70-lap run. It's gonna be 72 from when they pitted. Yeah, this is doable on a one-stop now. This changes everything. This caution has absolutely flipped this race around, and it's evident because we have short pit stops out front from Derbyshire. You can't see it. Babcock, short pit stop there, 6.42 seconds. Short stop for Kleinschmidt, 6.25. Excuse me. Then you get Chris Wellhite at a full four tire and fuel stop. So some 2-tire fuel only potential stops out front. That's going to change things up. I don't like 2 tires, though. That never seems to end well these days.
Well, I mean, I don't have a rebuttal for that.
It just doesn't seem to end well. We'll see.
Well, these guys are rolling through turn 3. 64, 99, 59, 701. These guys have been running solid. Nice to see Babcock up front, though, after his incident on lap 4. Able to get that damage fixed, able to get himself back out there in a good position on the front row after the pit stops. And, well, this pace car is about to make the hard left turn off pit road, and we are going back to green flag racing.
iRacing.com safety car back to the pit lane. 70 laps to go when we take the green flag. This just became a one-stop race. Green flag back in the air. And, oh, one car blinking. That was Babcock off the start, but he gets down in line quickly.
Yeah, a big run on that restart for the 64 of Austin Derbyshire. And it looks like it stalled out a little bit for him because here comes the first car on 4 tires. Wilhite and Watson back at it again on the outside with Whitford behind them. Actually, no. That is the 14 of South running up there on the top. Whitford is on the bottom. So this is going to be interesting as they come off of turn number 4. Wilhite back out in charge of this race, trying to break the draft. Watson all the way down. This is going to get good as we go on to lap 22.
Yeah, I love the attempt. I think if that was a short run to the stage, that might have worked for Derbyshire and Kleinschmidt, but I think they learned something there. Don't do 2 tires. They are going back in a hurry, losing a lot of time, and what this is doing is only increasing the gap from the top 2 to the rest of the field right now. Wilhite and Watson can safely drive right now, safely run, and they're getting a larger and larger gap to guys they've got to competitively race against. And it's unfortunate to say that, but sometimes, while yes, you have to do something different than the rest of the field if you want to beat them, sometimes it's better not to go against the grain.
Especially this early in the race. I mean, it's
hey,
easy.
they learned something.
They did. They absolutely did. But it's easy to recover from things early on in the race. Sometimes people get that mentality of, hey, let's try it now. Let's see how it works. If it doesn't work for us, then we can try something else a little bit later down the road. As there's some blocking going on. We got one car contact.
The 99.
And one car spinning.
I saw the 99 of Babcock. I see Wilson on the inside, and caution will fly, and this only solidifies the idea that this is a one-stop race at this point in time, and Babcock has got trouble.
Heavy damage. Heavy right side damage.
Second race in a row that we've covered, and he has ended up in large amounts of trouble. Back in Atlanta, he had issues. Caught up in an early crash about 1 month ago.
And he unfortunately was just not able to keep that car in a good standpoint. And you can see here Alan Wilson, a little bit of right front damage. It's more than likely going to be fixable. These guys, I was watching them coming off the corner. They were very close together. I saw the contact, and, well, Andrew, we both saw what happened next.
Yeah, we saw a little bit what was going on. Watch the red 99. Yellow numbers kind of start to slide back, run low. I don't know if he got free on 2 tires and came up, got hooked by the 08. Babcock, he was moving around a lot on that restart, and I think hooked himself.
Yeah, that was just a little too much moving around when it comes to being in the draft. These cars can be super, super sensitive when it comes to how fast they're going. And here's a look at the rear deck lid. You can see here he got a little loose, which causes the checkup.
I think here he got more free up.
Bumper, and there's the contact. He thought he was still clear, and he was barely clear, which caused him to only get hooked on the bumper.
Wow.
And there's the heavy contact. That's definitely gonna be a toe link.
Well, the left rear spun and the left front turned. I think he's okay. I think all 4 wheels are still pointed the right direction, at least to a relative point.
It looked like a toe link just from how he bumped. Like when you see the wall contact, like here, there is the contact with Watts, just a little bit of a hook on the right rear quarter panel, and then if you watch him right there, you saw him bounce up. Usually to me, when I see a car bounce up like that, especially with these next-gen cars, it just tells me that that contact is going to break a toe link.
Well, we missed something big. No, we didn't. Luke Doran. We already saw him out of this race. I completely erased that from my mind for a second, but we've already seen him out of the race. Unfortunate there, of course, but Babcock and Wilson both got back to the pit lane under their own power. Shaughnessy now out of the pit lane. I think took some repairs. And a few other takers under this yellow, including Jason Jackson, Brandon Sheffield, Victor Stank, and Nick Barisi, all pitting under this yellow period. Justin Levine also now in the pit lane, joining these drivers as his pit stop was short-lived. There goes Babcock. Oh, look at that left front. Wow, that is... Oof.
I told you. Toe link. I told you.
It's not a toe link. I think it's... The toe link is...
It's toe in and toe out, and that wheel is towed in.
Well, it's not broken. Somehow. That's... The whole wheel is in. It's not even toe. It's the whole wheel is pushed way in. That is... It's a lot of damage. That's not going to go well. Here's the onboard of Babcock. I'm surprised the iRacing sim let him out of the pit lane, to be honest with you. Well, we're glad to have him back on the racetrack regardless. It is always good to see anybody back on the racetrack after a crash like that. So glad Babcock is back out. Only one car out of the race, that being Luke Doran currently, as he is now 7 laps down. Quickly, while we have this moment under caution, I want to take a look at some upcoming broadcasts here at Pit Stop TV. We have a full week as usual. Well, actually, not really as usual, kind of back to a full week of racing as, well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then even Friday we've got racing here on Pit Stop TV. Monday evening, tomorrow night, we go EPI Short Track Monday racing with late model stock cars at USA International Speedway. Tuesday, we take late model stocks to Nashville, almost, New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the D-Line Racing League brought to you by Elevator Performance. And finally, Wednesday evening, we go racing at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park with the UFL Elite Series and their Gen 4 NASCAR Cup cars. That said, we're going to get through a whole lot more racing here this evening. 65, make it 64 to go. This time across the start-finish line. Waiting on the flagman to give us the signal, and green flag flies once again from Michigan International Speedway. Watson already moving around, dancing around on this restart. Austin Derbyshire down low in that gray and orange 64, falling back on the restart. Adrian Watts making up positions. Derbyshire's going to have help. That is the 21, maybe? No, that is the 15. Jeff Marble helping out the 64, and Marble making a name for himself this evening as a big checkup occurs up top. 1 lap complete from the restart, 3 wide across the line. Kane, Derbyshire, and Marble, as here we go for the race lead. Watson going to try down low. Could he pull off a slide job? No. Got loose. Will Height pulls way down to the inside. Watson bites, goes down there as well as Kleinschmidt's now going to have a run up top. And oh boy, could the 59 have something here? Watson gets free on the inside again. Watson, though, clears the 59 car. Going to bring Adrian Watts now up there with him. The 01 and 08 are teammates. Of turn number 2, lap 29 underway, coming up to 1/3 distance in this race. They're racing to lap 45 for the stage. Ed Kane now up in the top 6, top 5. Whitford up here as well. 1 car way up high. Brandon Sheffield in the outside wall to turn number 3. The fight for the lead not going anywhere.
Doesn't look like any damage. It looks like he's going to keep continuing on as Watson is ever so trying to take that lead away. Nose out in front. Is he going to clear going into turn 1? Maybe, but he's going to have to slide up, easily take that spot away.
He might have him for the first time all night. All he needed was his teammate Adrian Watts to get to him and push that 01 out ahead, but Watson didn't take it. That could be a huge mistake as Will Height gets help now from Ed Kane to turn number 3.
They are still side by side now, 2 by 2 by 2, because they're side by side, the 15 and the 33. And that's Justin Levine. He is not on the lead lap. He's 4 laps down, and he's up here trying to fight, get his laps back the hard way. That's the 15 of Marble, who has not been up in the top 10 most of the night, and now he's trying to see what he can do as Will Height is nosing out in front once again.
I think that was
everything he can.
I think that was a huge mistake by Watson to not move up.
It definitely was.
I mean, there's still a game to be played here for 15 more laps, I suppose, for the stage, and there could be a yellow at any point in time, but I really think
he may get it here. It may clear. I mean, it looks like he might take it here. Will Height up the racetrack. I think he thought Watson was going to come on up. He's got the run down the front straightaway. If he clears, he's got to take it up, but they're side by side now, crossing the start-finish line. Kane is not holding back and pushing Mr. Will Height in the 7 to the front.
I think that was the best chance Watson had, best 2 chances Watson had to get clear of the 7 car. They don't come that easily, and we saw that. We've seen that over the course of these 32 laps. It's not easy to get by the race leader here at Michigan International Speedway, and certainly no easier when it's Chris Wilhite. That's only more difficult, and currently it's really showing itself. It is tough to pass the race leader, especially when it's the 7. If we look at the stats for Wilhite so far this evening, Zach, 28 laps led out of 32 complete. There have only been 4 laps completed that he did not lead. I would imagine they were under caution for the most part when Derbyshire and those guys took 2 tires.
Absolutely. It's been an incredibly dominating performance so far by Wilhite. It doesn't necessarily look like it with all the vital. Oh boy, I'm getting tongue-tied here. All the battling that's been going on as they're almost 3 wide. Whitford trying to sneak through the middle. He gets back in line with Levine right behind him. But they have been fighting for so long now. It doesn't necessarily look like Wilhite's been dominating, but the stats don't lie. He's been out in front, leading the laps each time they cross the line. And Watson has not been able to do anything so far. It's been just fighting this whole time. And like you said, Andrew, he missed his opportunity to hop up in front, take that lead away. Now it's just side drafting, trying to find out when he's going to be able to have that chance again.
Watson's still doing some work down low, now bringing South up there with him. That's Brian Watson's car, remember? Or at least Brian Watson's points that he is earning. So Marble running for Watson, of course. Teammates over there technically with Watson and Watts on the inside. They're working on their choreography as this race goes on. It's a mixed bag up top, although Kane and Whitford are teammates as Levine gets put in the fence. Wow. He is a lapped car. I don't think he can expect to get run nicely by these guys. But yes, he's going to now put it to the middle. Oh, this is where waters get rather murky.
On the one hand, you have a fast car that is running to get laps back, which is understandable. However, being a lap car, sporting code, and general racing etiquette dictates that the lap cars race a little bit lesser on the fact of their laps down, they're not racing for the lead. If they're faster, they are allowed to pass so long as the passing car makes the duty to pass cleanly. But if I were Levine, and this is just my 2 cents, if I were Levine, I would just hold off a little bit. You're in the free pass position. Don't get the 0x, don't risk it. If you can get the laps back, go ahead and do it, but don't risk those 0x's or you'll get those, if the caution comes out when you got that 0x, that's your lucky dog gone.
Watson falling back. He is down to the 3rd spot. Watts on the inside, and I agree with pretty much everything he said there. It's general racing etiquette as a lap car not to challenge leaders. Again, this is where waters just get very, very murky, and one thing I hope is that it doesn't adversely affect any lead lap cars. Because we've seen that so many times, too many times, in iRacing in general. But the lead fight is not calming down whatsoever. Watson trying to bring the fight up to the 7 car once again. The laps are clicking off and away for this stage, Zach. We are now to the point where our initial fuel run would be ending if this race had gone green. Of course, it has not. So we're in kind of uncharted waters at this point, but we expect these guys to make this a one-stop race. They're going to run to about 30 to go. Thereabouts, so about lap 60 if this race goes green.
It's definitely going to be a short run to the end for these guys. They need to figure out really what they want to do because they can stretch it a little bit in terms of fuel mileage when it comes to setting up that last run. It's just all a matter of being able to pit and have help. You don't want to pit by yourself and then just be punching a hole in the air the entire time coming around the racetrack, and then all of a sudden, 25 laps later, you're 2 laps shorter on gas than the rest of the field. So pit with help. Make sure you have that drafting help. We're on board here with Ed Kane, sitting right behind Wilhite. He's just being super patient. Just sitting in that draft, saving fuel. I say that, and he's going to the bottom, looking to take that lead away.
Well, watch up here. That is his teammate, Derek Whitford. that is the car helping Ed Kane up in the mirror. So you can see a lot in this shot alone. I know it's in the cockpit, but Zach, you can see a lot of what's going on. Obviously the whole windshield, but also up in this mirror, you can really get a lot of context as to how this race is going and where the help is and is not for Ed Kane right now. Of course, he's got that red car helping him. Watson's trying to get by, and Watson keeps going further and further back. I feel like this top lane has got it figured out.
Yeah, top lane is really worked in. There's a lot of grip up there now. They're laying down a lot of rubber, and Watson is now just by himself on the bottom. You can see in the mirror, no cars are really running on that bottom line. It's just Watson by himself. Now you've got one more car. That's the 15 of Marble. Seeing if he can work with Watson just a little bit, but he just keeps dropping back and back. He's really fifth in line out of these cars, but fourth on the racetrack as Levine is still up there laps down. Watson's getting great runs through the center of the corner, but when it comes to the straightaways, you can just see.
Ooh. Shaughnessy and Watts are getting a little messy. They are on different teams, and it's difficult when you have the big Ryko logo slapped on the sides of these cars. It makes it difficult to tell who's who. But Watts and Shaughnessy are on different teams, and they're starting to get aggressive.
Saw there, Shaughnessy got a little loose, and Watts had to check up a little bit.
On board with Adrian Watts. You can see Jason Jackson on the inside. Brandon Sheffield also racing with these guys. Jason Jackson is teammates with Whitford, with Kane, with Sheffield. So all of those guys are one team, and they are running really, really well tonight, those four cars. All in the top 10.
Absolutely, these guys have been putting on a great show tonight, doing everything they need to do to get maximum points. And we can see here, Watson is making another charge. He needs to hop up now. He's clear. He's going to hop up, new leader, finally, after, count them, maybe 30 laps on the bottom. Watson up in front of Michigan, but here comes Will Height once again on the top.
We said multiple times that was his best chance earlier on when he finally found one. I don't know where that came from. Maybe Will Height starting to kind of reel himself back in a little bit, save his stuff, realizing this could go for a while in a green flag scenario. That's what it looks like. It looks like Will Height is trying to pedal back a little bit, maybe save some fuel. Maybe the fuel number is a little bit tighter than we thought. Maybe it's closer to 35 as opposed to 37, 38. That could make these guys have to save a little bit for insurance to make sure they're good to the end of this race. It really looks like the whole dynamic of this race has entirely changed as Will Height falls back and gives Watson a 3/10 lead. And now here comes Marble to the inside of Kane. This whole race has changed. One car out of the pit lane. Daryl Whitford joins us 43 laps down as we're 2 to go on the stage.
I really do have to agree with you here. We haven't seen a lead this big all race. You've got Will Height now over 3/10 back on Watson in the 01. Really, like I said, we have not seen a lead this big all race. Now they're starting to get spread out. You see Levine getting in the sucker spot back there just a little bit. These guys are not having grouped up help anymore. Watson's by himself. Will Height's by himself. It's another 10th back to Marble. Another 3/10 back to Jackson.
That is the stage cutoff line. Currently. Tentatively. It moves every little bit, but Richard Elliott, that purple car up top, is the last car in the top 10, getting stage points. Watch this green, number 66 is the last lap of the stage. He's trying to get a stage point. Meanwhile, out front, it is all Joshua Watson. They're going to come around and complete stage number 1, and car 01, seemingly rather surprisingly, is going to win stage 1 at Michigan, while Sheffield takes the final stage point. Barisi is the first one out. It's Watson, Wilhite, Marble, Kane, Jackson, Whitford, Watts, Elliott, Shaughnessy, Sheffield, your top 10.
And now, this is usually where we break for a caution, but we're still green. We are still rolling strong.
And how about the race for Richard Elliott as well? We have not seen a race like this out of him in quite some time, and he needs it. He's trying to make the playoffs. He's teammates with guys like Joshua Watson, Brian Watson, Adrian Watts. Brian Watson's not here this evening, so he's relying on the 08 and the 01 cars, and that's why Watts is back here, I think, trying to help his teammate out. They talked about it at Atlanta, and we talked about the fact that this is the next big speedway race like this where they could work together and try and get that 02 car into the playoffs with a win this evening. Otherwise, it's going to take a whole lot of points.
Ooh, big wiggle. Oh my goodness, what a save coming off of turn number 2.
Yeah, Elliott stepping out there big time.
That was almost way worse than it was. Richard Elliott in the 0-2, almost ending his race right there, as now the leaders have bunched back up just a little bit. Marble and Wilhite side by side running for second. Kane and Jackson sitting back there waiting to see if something's going to happen. Ooh, ever so close, rolling through 1 and 2.
The pit window is going to open up in about, technically, 7 more laps. When do these guys end up pitting? I think about 12 laps from now, maybe slightly longer.
Remind me again who Watson's teammates are.
But Joshua Watson is counting on the 08 and the 02 in this race. You can count the 15, because the 15 is racing for Brian Watson, who runs the 04 car usually, and is not here this evening. So Jeff Marble in the 15 car is running instead of Brian Watson as his substitute driver, earning him points. I believe it might be a discounted rate of points, whether it's 75% or I'm not sure, but it's still a lot better than 0 and is going to help Watson tremendously in this battle, as opposed to missing this race entirely. So technically, and we've seen a little bit of camaraderie, we've seen a little bit of teamwork from the 15 with those other JBR e-racing cars of Joshua Watson, Adrian Watson, a little bit of Richard Elliott, but Richard Elliott is struggling right now. Old tires, we saw it, you noted it. He almost lost it all, and now Watts is several car lengths ahead of that 02 car. They're all split up.
Well, this is what I'm getting at here. Do we see someone like Watson, who's in the lead now by 3/10 once again, pedal it back a little bit and try to pit with his teammates, so that way he's able to have help and have draft when he comes in and comes off pit road, in case some of these guys like Wilhite or Kane or Whitford decide that they want to spread it out a little bit more and not pit with the whole group.
With how hard it is to pass, I don't think so. I really do think this race could become a classic kind of Michigan International Speedway race where guys get strung out and it's less of a speedway race. It just takes the right kind of setup for it as Babcock exits the pit lane. Babcock 10 laps down, finally getting back out onto the racetrack, playing nicely with the race leaders. But you see it, single file here. The setup is all here, Zach, for a classic kind of Michigan race, even though Justin Levine is kind of playing spoiler as that lap car. But as these laps go on, as the handle falls away from these cars, it's more and more difficult to stay a packed up line. I say that, and here comes Adrian Watts trying to prove me wrong. He's got to run.
He's just sitting back there waiting to see if he can pounce. And personally, if you're going to get track position, you need to take advantage of it now and do whatever you can. Get in front of these guys, because you are rolling up on a pit stop here in around 5 laps or so. Don't try to fight for too long. Don't burn those tires up too much, because you're at more of a risk of sliding them when you come down pit road.
Sheffield clearing the 08 once again, over 190 into turn number 3. Sheffield to the inside of Whitford, at least looking down there, but that's a teammate. And you know what? Jackson, Kane, Whitford, Sheffield, 4 teammates in a row. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Those guys are killing it tonight. Team points aplenty for those drivers. Even if Watts passes Sheffield here, they are doing a fantastic job, and clearly they have got their plan working nicely to form this evening. Even if Watts goes up here and passes a couple of them, that's okay. They are doing a fantastic job. All 4 cars in the top 10. There is not a single other team that you can say that for. Even those big powerhouses of the High Side Motorsports and JBR E-Racing, none of them are doing what those guys are doing over at GDR.
Absolutely, and you can see that Watson has pushed himself out to almost half a second. You know, these guys are bumper to bumper, rolling with each other down the front straightaway. Watson back to about 3/10 in front of Wilhite. Marble, Jackson, Kane, Watts, Whitford, Sheffield, Parisi, and Shaughnessy, top 10. If, and I mean if, all of them pit together. Whoa, that's a big move by Levine down to the inside of Wilhite.
Just got to be careful here. Levine's got wins. I don't know.
That was very, very gutsy. Will Height on the back bumper of Levine. That chopped off the run a lot for the 7 and the 15, which I don't think the 7 of Chris Wilhite is going to be too happy about, because Levine, being a lap car, just cut that run off that he was going to have down the front stretch. He closed that gap up to about 3/10. Now it's almost 6/10 out there.
Yeah, it's something that's very commonplace in open wheel racing, especially on ovals. I recall mentioning it a lot when we still covered the IORL, but I've never been a fan of lap cars racing lead lap cars in this sense, because that move has severely impacted Wilhite, and it's going to directly affect the race for the win. But that said, I mean, there's also a very fair argument to be made that Levine has all right to race for his own race, and clearly he's quick, and he's got race wins to show for it. He's on the same stint as these drivers. Well, all right, actually not the same stint, a 6-lap different stint, a very similar stint to these drivers, and is making these kinds of moves as the pit window is now open, and here we go, just like that, Joshua Watson to the pit lane.
And he's bringing a whole slew of cars with him, getting it down 55 the speed limit here at Michigan. And we've got a slew of cars.
Wilhite, Marble,
Kane.
Just about everybody.
I believe Watts is down pit road as well.
Yes, Josh Watson, yes. Our race leader comes into the pit lane. Jackson, Sheffield, Barisi, Wilson, and oh, Watson had to correct. One car missed it entirely. Jeff Marble completely missed his box at first. That is a huge, huge issue for the 15 car, and really the 04 of Brian Watson, who's not even here. Wilhite gets that good of a launch because Watson had to adjust in his box. That is a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, he was off the jack about half a second sooner before Watson, was even able to get clear, and you can see the difference coming off of pit road. There's about half a second between the two of them on the ticker, as we have got the 68 on pit road.
Victor Stank.
I believe it's 66. No, that was the 68.
68 of Victor Stank, and then here's Kleinschmidt as well. Jason Jackson not yet pitting in the number 86. He's got no help out behind. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Austin Derbyshire comes in. Oh my goodness. Misses the box entirely, does the 64. As here comes Jackson.
He's coming by himself. This is what I'm talking about, Andrew. These guys are coming by themselves, and it's going to be that much more difficult to be able to stay with a lead pack and race them if you're not coming in with drafting help.
Oh, Derbyshire has got problems. You can't see it because he started from the pit lane. It won't give us data, but I suspect a speeding penalty for the 64 car. Frustration certainly has got to be high there, as our race leader currently is Brandon Sheffield. Has not pitted yet, along with Barisi and Wilson. And they are all split up. Sheffield here out of turn number 4. Nick Barisi here now going to pit. Alan Wilson coming out of turn 4 all by his lonesome. So your effective race leader becomes Chris Wilhite here in the purple number 7. What do you know? Joshua Watson on his rear end.
And they have absolutely gapped the rest of the field. Nobody around them, and Watson has nobody to help him, but neither does Wilhite, so they are going to fight it out side by side down the back straightaway. And the closest car to them is 3 seconds behind, and that is Whitford. Actually, excuse me, about 2.2 seconds behind, and Watson has wasted no time. He's back out in front, but Wilhite's got to run, crossing him over down the front stretch. Who's going to lead the lap at the line? Give it to Watson. Or,
well,
excuse me.
No, neither really.
Leading.
Sheffield's still out front. Yet to pit just yet as Nick Barisi comes out of the pit lane. We still await the 96 in the pits, but here comes the 79 finally of Alan Wilson. And
I think the one thing that Justin Levine did not want to see was cars having issues on pit road when it came to speeding penalties, because that puts Derbyshire 2 laps down, whereas Levine is 3 laps down. Once the green flag pit stops cycle through, Wilhite will resume the race lead, and not all these cars will be laps down. So you had Levine, who could have gotten the free pass. Now you see him coming down pit road, which is going to make him lose another lap. He could have had the race lead. Or, oh my goodness, he could have had, thank you, Lucky Dog. could have had Lucky Dog, but now he can't have that opportunity because you've got cars who had penalties to serve on pit road who are going to be effectively, compared to Wilhite and Watson, laps down.
And funny enough, that driver with the speeding penalty that we're assuming, Austin Derbyshire, is Justin Levine's teammate.
Well, he's effectively, at the moment, 1 lap down, as Wilhite and Watson are effectively taking the race lead back over first and second once again, with Sheffield on pit road, Whitford, Watts, Kane, Shaughnessy, and Jackson, Marble, Richard Elliott, who is back up inside the top 10.
Yeah, a lot changed in that pit cycle, and that's what I was talking about. This becoming a classic kind of Michigan race where the field strings out. You get into some pit strategy, tire strategy, really, since the fuel strategy is pretty cut and dry. Although we may still get to where fuel savings matter with these drivers towards the end of this race. It's going to be interesting. If we get a caution in the last 3 laps, do you pit, do you not? Track position.
No. Track position is everything.
If you're towards the back, certainly, you want to try and stay out, but also, what if you go ahead and pit, and the guys ahead of you stay out? You'll have that much better tires. If we look at their current lap times, there is a big difference between their current lap times and their best. Even the race leaders, even these guys were in a pack, a couple of tenths, and they just got back on the racetrack 5-6 laps ago from the pit lane. We'll obviously see towards the end of this race the larger disparity between new and old tires, but I think new tires are going to mean a lot in that last run. It's a matter of if you sacrifice the track position, if you think you can get back through the field. But that's a whole hypothetical, Zach. Right now, we're clean and green. Knock on wood. These guys have put together a fantastic race for us this afternoon. Really compelling through and through to this point. Derek Whitford racing with Adrian Watts and Ed Kane. 2 of these 3 are teammates. It's the 44 and 10. The 08 of Adrian Watts is teammates with the car that's 2 cars ahead in Joshua Watson. The 01 car, and then Chris Wilhite is on his own right now.
Absolutely, and it's been quite an interesting race so far with seeing the pit strategy cycle out. You've got the 2 drivers that were fighting most of the time out in front by a solid 1.4 seconds. That gap is closing, though, and the top 10 has grouped back up a little bit more so, allowing these guys to just have a bit more drafting help and be able to not necessarily relax, but not necessarily worry about losing the leaders and losing too much track position. So, interesting to see how these guys are going to play it out the remainder of the race. If it stays clean and green, again, knock on wood, it's going to be tricky to even really give a definitive answer on who might be in contention for this win, as Whitford and Watts have closed about another tenth or 2 on the top 2 as they're fighting for the lower spots of the top 10.
Taking a look here at Brandon Sheffield working his way through some of these cars. Of course, he was last to pit. But he's got slightly better tires trying to get by guys like Jason Jackson. He's done so with a couple of cars. Now Shaughnessy actually comes down to block Jason Jackson. Sheffield and Jackson are teammates. So maybe some work going together, some teamwork between the 86 and 96 potentially, as they try to work their way through this race. And just ahead, you see Jeffrey Marble pulling down the racetrack to draft with Justin Levine. Levine, as you documented well, is 4 laps down, not at all in the Lucky Dog spot right now, as Austin Derbyshire took that speeding penalty, we assume. And, whoa, Victor Stank. Wow. 16th spot, hangs on to that race car. That was out there.
Yeah, you can tell that the track is still pretty slick, and you can tell that they are wearing these tires pretty thin, as, well,
the track temp has come up quite a bit. 111 degrees. It was 104. Yeah, it was 104 when we looked at the track map earlier today towards the end of practice, the beginning of qualifying. So it's come up a good bit as, you know what? Don't look now, but the top 5 is coming together. The leaders out here
help when they're fighting.
Yeah, the leaders out here running side by side have brought the rest of this top 5 to them. Wilhite down on the door of Joshua Watson. That's exactly what those guys behind him want to see. That's what Whitford and Kane especially want to see. Watts, yeah, he'll take it because, of course, he wants to better himself. But, man, these 2 drivers kind of leaders of their teams, if you will, this season, fighting it out, have brought the rest of the field to them.
Oh, the caution's out.
Unbelievable. Elliott and Shaughnessy. And I may be mistaken, but I think there was recently some drama between these two drivers in Discord.
There was a little bit of things going on the hot mic when they ended up having this incident. A few words exchanged, but now looking at what has gone on.
Oh, boy.
There's
oh
my
goodness. Well, we'll
Oh,
save.
that is heavy, heavy contact.
We'll save some judgment for this replay. Well, let's take a look from the driver's eye perspective of Lawrence Shaughnessy.
Coming off the corner.
Very notably, very importantly, watch the steering wheel in all of this. Racing with Jason Jackson.
Comes off the wall. Oh, just hits the wall. Does not hold it up there. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to call it clean and dry as it is. That seems a little too much on Shaughnessy. I believe he could have held it up there on the wall a little bit better and really prevented that. But
well, he at least didn't turn left. He did not turn left to Elliott. The car was very broken from the initial bits of contact. That's what I wanted to see from the driver's perspective. That was the first bit of interest to me. The rest is how we even get into the situation in the first place. Shaughnessy down the racetrack.
Oh.
That's just really aggressive to be racing for 9th and 10th with 20 to go.
Track position is everything, but maybe not.
Not if you're on the wall. That goes back a little bit to, of course, to finish first, you must first finish, right? Yes, track position matters, but that track position on lap 69 does nothing if you're in the pits on lap 70. Look at it from Richard Elliott's perspective.
There's the big shot down the racetrack, and then another shot down the racetrack, and Richard Elliott unfortunately involved in that. Doesn't look like too bad on the front end, so he might be able to continue as pit stops are underway, and well, this blows fuel mileage out the window as all drivers are in the window by about 5 laps. Will Height off pit road.
Oh, by 15 laps.
Oh, but yeah, by about 50. Oh, excuse me. I don't know why I thought 70-30 to go. It usually strikes me 100 laps at Michigan. Still getting used to 90, but Will Height off pit road. Watson, surprisingly, lost a couple of spots on pit road as we had 2 cars stay out. Babcock and Levine taking waiver rounds.
Much needed waiver rounds.
Here. They may pit here, though, because they were out there for quite a bit. They may be relying on short yellows, though.
Everybody was good to the end. So Babcock actually is the one I'm not sure about. Yeah, no, everybody's good to the end. I'd imagine they will stay out on the racetrack, grab those laps, because they need those more than they need tires at this point in time. But we have less than 20 laps to go here at Michigan International Speedway. And with that, we're going to take a Pit Stop TV side-by-side break and rejoin you in just a few moments before we go green flag racing once again from the Irish Hills of Michigan. Welcome back to the Virtual Michigan International Speedway, and, well, inside of 20 laps to go. It'll be 18, in fact, from lap 73 to 90 of this race. Let's see if we can go green. A little bit of cloud cover overhead, but the green flag is above all. We're green once again in Brooklyn, Michigan. As we get back green in the Buttkicker Cup Series, side by side, third place. That's Watson up top, Kane down low, but Adrian Watts now bringing the fight to Chris Wilhite. Two purple cars gonna fight out front.
They're single file, 1, 2, 3, almost 4 and 5, as Kane and Marble are side by side, just trying to log laps, get up there. Not too much time left before this race is over, as Wilhite goes all the way to the bottom. Thought he was going to bring Watson with him, but apparently not, as they are sticking to that top line, just sitting in line, waiting for their chance to make their move. And Watts is taking advantage now, all the way down to the bottom.
What a drive from the 08 car down to the inside through turn number 2, bringing the fight straight to the number 7. Beautiful move there. It's going to bring Watson, and those cars are alive. They bring Jeff Marble Racing for Brian Watson, not here today. Those 3 drivers, they were completely spread out throughout the top 10. Now they're all together inside the top 4, racing to try and beat Chris Wilhite. Those 3 together very well could take the top 3 spots. There's no help yet for Wilhite. Now he goes up in front of cars that are not his teammate. And here comes... That's James South racing for Kevin Jadrosich, another sub. Wow, this race has completely changed.
And the bottom is starting to form up too. A lot of these guys are making good momentum as Watson's now clear of Wilhite. That's 2 of the 3 that were running on the bottom, and Marble in that 15 is still working on Chris Wilhite in the 7. Still side by side coming off the corner, but they are not ditching him. Watson and Watts staying on that bottom, and more cars are dropping down, trying to see what they can do as the bottom, like I said, starts to form up, and the top is spread out too, so I don't think that they're going to have too much help to be able to keep that top line moving.
I think these guys made some adjustments. I don't know what they did, if it was tire pressure, if they put a packer in somewhere, but it really seems like they made some adjustments, small adjustments if that, under that caution period to change the way the cars handle, because they look completely different down on the bottom side of the racetrack. Maybe it's just the track temps, maybe it's the rubber, I don't know, but everything looks different about this race. Suddenly the bottom looks good, the top is okay, and wow. JBR E-Racing moving forward as they've got the top 2, almost top 3 positions. Jeff Marble trying to get that spot for him as James South has moved through the field. Wilhite couldn't stay above the 15 car, and Wilhite now down to a lowest position under normal green flag racing of 4th. Here he comes to the inside. Big move, going for 2nd.
This is some good racing here, Andrew. He is side by side now with Watson. He brought Kane with him. I don't know how I missed it, but he jumped to the bottom 2, up to the top, right behind Marble.
Kane got the wall.
They made a little bit of contact.
Kane got the wall. Marble to the inside here of Wilhite. 13 laps to go that time by the flag stand. Wilhite rolls up to Watson here in the middle of the corner. Let's go on board with him. Marble gonna slide job back in front of the 7 car. And Watson! Watson's right rear, I think, caught the fence. Here comes South to the inside of Kane. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, you can see Wilhite had to check up for that slide up in front of him. Didn't want to get the nose chop, but no other option there as South coming up the inside of Wilhite. Kane has dropped back a little bit after being on the bumper down the back straightaway. Kleinschmidt has worked his way up into the top 10 on that bottom line, going completely unnoticed, but he has put himself into this fight. Sheffield, Whitford, and Wilson, your top 10, as South is now fighting Wilhite. That top line has completely broken apart, and they are really reveling in the fact that the bottom is now moving.
Big changes all around. Wilhite, big move to the inside, right to the inside of the 01. Roles reverse suddenly. For so long, it was Watson trying to pass Wilhite on the inside. Now it's Wilhite trying to pass Watson on the inside. Wilhite trying to block James South onto the apron. I'm sorry.
That's going to open the door for Ed Kane up on the top. He's going to be 3 wide moving into turn 1. And this has really opened the door. They were almost 4 wide going into the corner. Marble is up on the top now. South sliding up. They are very, very tight, as I think Sheffield just caught the wall a little bit.
That was a big block on the front stretch, one that really worked against the 7 car. Now here comes South to the inside once again, but moving the 7 up the racetrack a little bit. South not all the way to the inside. And here comes Alan Wilson way down low with a big run.
These guys are not holding back with 10 laps to go. Excuse me, 11 laps to go. No, it is 10 laps to go. I was right the first time. But they are still running 3 wide all over the racetrack. South doing what he can to make that bottom line work. Wilhite and Kane have grouped back up. Sheffield right behind them. They are really, really close coming off of turn number 2. Oh, car in the wall. That's Wilson.
No worries. Things get sorted out. Your top 3 all working together. Then it's Wilhite on his own in the 4th spot. James South on his own in the 5th spot. Then Eddie Kane has some help from behind. And actually, South isn't on his own. Kleinschmidt's a teammate there. So you've got a couple of teammate pairings. Cade and Sheffield up top. South and Kleinschmidt down below. Then Alan Wilson is on his own trying to get up to an allied number 7 of Chris Wilhite. So, oh, wow. What a move there from Watson to get in between the 7 and 10 cars. That was very, very important. And I tell you what, these subs this evening, South and Marble, fantastic job to both of them. Pat themselves in the back. No matter how it ends at this point, they have done a fantastic job of trying to carry their drivers on their backs today as substitutes. Super sub status for both of them.
They are just now starting to get a little bit more single file. We've got 1 car still working the bottom with South. That is, I'm actually not sure who that is back there. I believe that's a 66.
Way back there's the 86 of Jason Jackson down low in the orange Ford Mustang. They scatter in the back. But up front, snaking around, Jeffrey Marble's lost the 3rd spot. Here comes Wilhite up top.
It is going to be a no...
Kleinschmidt. No worries. Kleinschmidt just went way up the track in 3 and 4. He is now back to 9th spot. Jackson working on him. But watch this number 7, Chris Wilhite. He's back where he wants to be, at least in this stage of the race. Working once again on Joshua Watson, seeing if he can get up to Adrian Watts. These guys have been so good this season. These 3 in particular. Every time we check in for a broadcast, it's always these 3 that dominate a race. Throw in Wilson at Las Vegas, and sure, some others here and there, but they have all been so darn good.
And they are in crunch time now. 6 laps to go at the line. All of the top 10 is single filed out. There's still some fights going on in the middle of the pack, but for the most part, single file all the way through up until about 9th. South running that bottom line, just still trying to find a way around Wilhite for that 3rd place spot, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it if he doesn't have any help on that bottom line.
Still watching this fight out front. Down low now, Wilhite working for 2nd. It'll be 5 laps to go, this time by teammates up top, all in a row. Wilhite now on his own on the bottom side. I don't think that's where you want to be, and he realized that quickly, trying to pedal back and get in line in front of South. South now to the inside. Wilhite has severely worsened his position in this race, all by making that move to the inside.
And it looks like he might lose another spot here, but he's going to fall in right behind South. South did not want to check up going into turn 1 when Wilhite hopped back in line. Now he's going to pop back in. Wilhite down to the bottom. 3 wide going into turn 3. There's contact between the 14 and the 15.
The 2 subs.
That's going to allow Wilhite to take advantage and put himself into the 3rd spot.
Contact through 3 and 4 there. 4 laps to go. Sheffield and Kane now teammates. They say they run side by side and now split the 14 of James South. And 4 wide,
Four
maybe
wide.
through 1 and 2. Sure enough, 4 wide as Sheffield's down low. The subs in the middle, Kane up top. They sort it out. Kane gets the
Kane in the
wall
wall.
and backs out to Whitford, and we've got a crash.
That was bound to
Sheffield.
happen at one point.
Sheffield and Jackson spin through the backstretch and put us back under caution period. And there's that late caution. We knew we would have one. It just felt like a day where we'd have a late yellow.
It was bound to happen with how they were racing. They were just not holding anything back, which is what I wanted to say earlier before I lost my train of thought. But you can see here, going 4 wide.
Watch the
into the
literally
corner.
chrome horned 96.
Off the corner, Kane in the wall, 44 gets hit, and 44 gets knocked into the 96.
You know those 4 drivers I was talking about that were all in the top 10, doing a fantastic job, all teammates? Yeah, well, those were the 4 that were just involved in this crash. From Kane hitting the wall, backing into Whitford, to Whitford coming down into Sheffield, to Sheffield going across the nose of Jason Jackson. All of that choreography, all of that teamwork they had in stage 1 just came completely unraveled here within the last 3 laps of this event. All 4 of them involved in a tag team in 1 caution to put Sheffield now behind the mark and take on a lot of damage as we've got pit stops potentially this time by.
On the bright side, not going to call it a bright side, but let's just say it's a bright side. It was a pretty choreographed wreck.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to call that a bright side, as here are your pits. Several cars coming in, actually. Kind of a split decision.
Staying out, though. That is going to be interesting.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. Do you pit or do you not? Of course, we were talking about at the end of a long 30-lap, 40-lap run. This is a bit different, but still worth talking about, as Kleinschmidt is in, Derbyshire South, Levine. Well, Kleinschmidt, Derbyshire, and South are all teammates, so that makes sense. And then Babcock is also in for repairs. I think it's a quickie yellow here as well to conserve laps. So, tires that are less than 20 laps old, but are still over 15 laps old. We're working up to 20 laps old by the end of this race. Fuel that's about mostly burned off, light rear ends, playoffs coming up, most of these drivers being locked in. How do you see this one working out? I mean, there's a lot on the line for some, less on the line for others, certainly a lot of emotions. Well, I think Zach had to take a moment there, but a lot of emotions to go around this entire field. Adrian Watts, of course, out front, teammates with Joshua Watson. I don't have an official list of winners throughout the course of the season, but I know they've each amassed a fair total themselves. Will Height, they're in the 7 car. I do believe, I'd have to check the record, but I'm very certain, won back at Atlanta. I think it was Watts that won at Kansas. I'm trying to recall at least the races that we broadcast, and boy, does he get fuzzy after a few races. But Marble, of course, racing for Brian Watson. That makes it all that much more interesting. There's storyline on storyline here, Zach, and moving into green-white checkered territory, we do have 3 available. This is one of those 3. Do you think we use all 3?
I would hope we use all 3 if your name's Justin Levine, because you are now 2 laps down instead of 3. 2 more cautions puts him back on the lead lap, and with a fast car that he has, I think, personally, that he has a relative shot of at least getting a top 10. But in terms of these guys up at the front, they didn't take tires, so you've got only a few guys in the back who are on tires, 2 laps to make a run up to the front. So it's going to be defense, defense, defense.
I don't necessarily hope that we use more green-white checkers, because that means cars are crashing. But it certainly would be one for the drama aspect. It certainly would make this a whole lot of fun. But it also would be a lot of fun to watch these guys get it right the first time. Run 2 laps here at the end, and find a way to get it to the end of this race. Somebody who's in the top 10, I want to shout out, but I did not at all expect on this restart. Victor Stank running 10th. Coming to this restart, let's see what he can do with the number 68 for Swamp Fox Racing.
Well,
a lot of odd storylines throughout the entire field. We're going to have a green-white checkered at Michigan International Speedway, one of 3 that we have in the bank, the iRacing.com safety car. Back to the safety of pit lane. We roll into the Geico restart zone. Watts down low, Watson up top, then Will Height and Marble in 4th. Green flag back in the air, green-white checkered underway. A clean run through the first quarter of the lap through turn 1. Now into turn 2, the 0-1 loose. Joshua Watson moving around in that second spot. Nearly fell back to 3rd. They're back in line up top. JBR E-Racing strong.
And it looks like they're going to make it through 3 and 4. Hopefully very clean as they are coming around to take the white flag. Wilhite, Watson side by side for 2nd.
One car in the fence.
They're 3 wide though. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go, presented by Whiplash Sim Cams.
1 lap left for these drivers, and out front it is all car number 08, Adrian Watts. Now Marble falling back. Here comes Ed Kane with a last lap effort, working on the 7 of Chris Wilhite, who's falling back. Teammates out front are going to have to settle it at Michigan. Who's going to go to victory lane? Can Watson find something here in the tank? Ooh, Wilhite nearly turns himself.
They are throwing it into this last corner, but it's not going to be enough. Well, they might get 2nd, but nobody is going to touch Adrian Watts coming off turn 4. He is going to win it here in the Irish Hills of Michigan.
What a race. Couple of cars down to the inside. Kleinschmidt spun into the pit lane. But Adrian Watts would not be denied this afternoon. Congratulatory bumps from his teammate there, Joshua Watson. Wilhite door-banged with Watson to the line. 6 1/1000ths of a second separated them. We'll be talking to all 3 in post-race. Yeah, you can tell those JBR E-Racing guys are happy.
Yeah, I think the thing that's way more crazy to me is that the pole sitter won the race. The guy who finished second, or the guy who started second finished second, and the guy who started third finished third.
That's rare, especially when you have everything that happened in between. 19 laps led for Adrian Watts en route to victory as he comes on to the front stretch. When it's all said and done, those 2 out front, that just seems like the right pairing. Although, I think Wilhite certainly, as Watson turns his teammate across the line, Wilhite was the car of the day. I don't think there's any denying that. But as far as the overall teamwork of the day, early, I would have said Highside Motorsports. But when they had their kind of implosion with Doran and Shaughnessy, very clearly it was going to be a JBR E-Racing kind of day with Watts, Watson, and Marble.
Absolutely, and you know, we've seen it before. It's not always the fastest car that wins the race, as Adrian Watts backs it into the victory lane portion of Michigan International Speedway, and absolutely there at the end, that restart, he did an amazing job getting out in front where he needed to be, and I'm not sure who that was that just streaked across the screen.
That may have been a rogue Chris Wilhite, but let's take a look back at our unofficial race results and see who finishes where when it's all said and done after 92 laps. And hey, I said I'd like to see him get it done the first time. They got it done the first time. Props to them. As Adrian Watts comes home with a race win. Joshua Watson comes home second place. Chris Wilhite there in the 3rd spot. Great running from the 3 of them. Really fun to watch them throughout the course of this race. Ed Kane, by the way, a big shout out there to the 10 car. That was a lot of fun to watch him. One of the best races I've ever seen out of Edward Kane. I know we haven't seen a ton of races this season, but certainly the best race I think we've seen from that 10 car thus far. Jeffrey Marble, very remarkable in the 15 car for Brian Watson. A lot of points for that 04 car. Derek Whitford, great race as well. Nick Barisi, Alan Wilson, James South, Jason Jackson. There's a lot of positives, even though Sheffield ended up with the short end of the stick for that team. The run from Kane, Whitford, Barisi, Jackson, all of those guys, really well done, really impressive. I'm impressed, at least. Hopefully the rest of those guys are. Hopefully they can pat themselves in the back, because they still put 4 cars in the top 10, and that takes a lot.
Absolutely, and it's so great to see these guys running really well as we roll through the rest of the field. Victor Stank finishing 11th. He was up there on that last restart, and he was able to hold some good track position Unfortunately, he just misses out on the top 10. First one looking in. Brandon Sheffield, Richard Elliott, 12th and 13th. Austin Derbyshire, David Shively, Shively. Matthew Kleinschmidt, Justin Levine, just not close enough to get all those laps back. He was so close there at the end. Had a fast car all day, running around lead lap cars, but not able to get back on that lead lap. Timothy Babcock, after getting involved in those two incidents, puts himself 12 laps down. Just one extra lap over Lawrence Shaughnessy. Luke Doran, another car that ended up out in the 20th position, and then Darrell Whitford, 42 laps down.
When it's all said and done, congratulations once again to Adrian Watts. Let's grab tonight's race winner in car number 08, getting it done behind the wheel. And it was definitely a JBR E-Racing Stage 2, at least, for you guys. A lot of things went right. What specifically led you to victory lane, Adrian? Because you were not always up front.
Nah, I just was taking it easy. I usually burn it up there at the beginning, so I kind of backed off and let those guys go. And not gonna lie, probably Josh Slatton's pit stop is what gave me the best chance to win that one.
And it definitely seemed like when you backed off, it seemed like, well, maybe can we get the O2 car to move forward? I know we talked about at Atlanta after that race and post-race. What is the effort like moving forward to get Richard Elliott into these playoffs? Because you definitely, clearly want to get that O2 car in, but it's been a challenge. There's a lot of really good cars in this series.
Yep. Richard's getting better, and I really think that, us as a team and a whole, restrictor plates and stuff, so I'm looking at, Daytona or something, and we're going to try to maybe push him and Brian up there to the front.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun to come back and check in with you guys at the playoff cutoff race in just 3 weeks' time at Daytona. What's the game plan, though, for these two road courses in between?
Just try to get some points, cushion a little bit going into the playoffs.
There you go, Adrian Watts. A nice quick race win for you. 19 laps led, as low as 11th. You still kept it up in the top half of the field all day long, or thereabouts. So nice run, obviously, if you're in victory lane. One to celebrate for sure this evening at Michigan. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Adrian Watts, a job well done in car number 08. And then we can go down to his teammate, Joshua Watson, who for a long time I said won Daytona, but Joshua, one spot short of victory lane. You and your teammate Adrian each led 19 laps, but very different races for you guys. For you, constantly trying to get by that 7 car. What was that fight like from your point of view?
Oh, man, that was absolute blast. I went for the first couple slide jobs just to see how Chris was going to race and whatnot. And once I knew he was going to kind of hold me and not let me get out front, he had the same mindset I had of trying to control the race. I knew it'd be a battle, and boy, this whole race was just an absolute up on the wheel battle the whole way, and couldn't have asked for a better race. It was fun driving it, and I could not imagine what it was like watching it.
While we don't have a stage break here in the Shake and Bake Racing Buttkicker Cup Series race through the stage, it definitely felt like a tale of two separate stages. In stage 1, it was your rivals over at Highside while also running the Ryko Performance setups. They were quick. They had things kind of worked out in the early goings. Then things changed, and especially in the last 20 laps, you guys had it right. With you, Adrian, and Jeffrey racing for Brian, you guys all had something working at the end of this race. What was the teamwork like on your side? What was the communication like to make that happen?
Oh, it was nonstop talking, especially the last green-white checkered, but even throughout that last run, it was just trying to communicate where everybody was and make sure our teammates had the draft to be able to keep us up there and not get separated. And for me, as a team owner and as a driver, I'm more proud of the fact that the team got the win and the 1-2 and the way we worked together than myself getting the win. It was just an absolute blast, especially, like I said, the last restart, just basically kind of coaching Adrian through it, stay up. Chris had no help. I had Jeff coming behind me. I knew Chris was going to try to throw it in deep. And just to be able to pull it off at the end was just amazing teamwork. I mean, this team, at any drafting track we get together with this team is amazing. And the fact that we've done it multiple times, I think, last time you guys broadcasted, we were able to pull it off at Atlanta, and then tonight just shows the strength of the teamwork and how everybody on this team puts team first.
You know, I was actually just about to correct myself. Earlier I said it was Will Hite winning at Atlanta last time. I think he dominated in a similar sense, and you guys came through at the end once again. So clearly you're right. You have this drafting package figured out, and this accounts for most of any NASCAR schedule, these intermediate tracks. So certainly your bread and butter has to have you guys feeling good for the playoffs.
Yes. We've been performing and getting better at, the mile and a half and the short tracks throughout the year as a team. And just these super speedways, we, really don't have a lot of worries there. Just once we get together, we're able to go. Was kind of bummed that we couldn't get Richard up there. He kind of got caught up in a wreck, but other than that, all of us working together is just phenomenal, and looking forward to keeping this going throughout the rest of the year and hopefully putting multiple guys from this team in the championship 4.
Well, congratulations. I definitely think at the very least we can count on one of you. That would be a huge upset if none of you go to the championship 4 at Phoenix. Congratulations once again. I know you won last time out actually at Richmond. I was just checking previous race wins. So clearly you guys are on a roll going into these road courses here in the summer. Congrats. And we'll be talking to you, I'm sure, at Daytona.
Thank you.
Joshua Watson with the second place effort this evening. Chris Wilhite has dominated now 2 big speedway races in a row, at least here on Pit Stop TV. But Chris, nothing to show for either one of them. Atlanta a few weeks back, now Michigan this evening. How frustrating is it to come home in 3rd place?
Yeah, I mean, 3rd's great, but yeah, it's I'm frustrated with the finish. It was just we had a great start. And actually took the lead going into 1, which surprised me a little bit. And then me and Josh just fought really, really hard to see who was going to kind of be in the lead and kind of control the race, which I was figuring would be a big thing. And out there led for a while. He finally got me. He got me for the stage. And then there at the end, those last 15 or so laps, I just, they had 3 team cars up there between Adrian and Josh and Jeffrey Marble, who's subbing for them tonight, and just the 3-on-1. You can't do anything about that here with the draft package. So proud of the team, proud of the setup, proud of the way we race. But yeah, really, Josh and I are just battling hard for the championship. So really wanted to get him tonight.
By that count, it sounds like you're not too worried about the 08 car. Is there specifically one car you're worried about, just the 01, or is the 08 in the back of your mind? Are there others in the back of your mind right now for the championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think between the 08 and then even a couple of my teammates, between Luke and Alan, we're all kind of fighting out there in the top 5 for the championship. So just trying to rack up those playoff points right now. And Josh is really the one that's just he's kind of separated himself from the pack, especially when it comes to those bonus playoff points. So that's really who I got my eye on right now, and really kind of feel like we're racing him every week, just trying to eke him out, even if it's just by 1 spot.
Well, we have a couple of road courses to completely change the game before we go to Daytona to cut off of the playoffs. Is there any teammate right now you're trying to get into the playoffs, that you're trying to get through to that next step, that round of 16?
Yeah, I mean, we're feeling pretty good at high side. We got 3 wins, and then Lawrence is still doing pretty solid in the points. He'll have a couple real good tracks here coming up at Watkins and Daytona. So feeling pretty good about the team position making the playoffs. So right now for me, I'm trying to get those playoff points. 2 road courses. Indy was a rescan last year. So it races a lot different on iRacing now than it used to. Races better. We were pretty decent there last year, and we're usually decent at Watkins Glen. I'm not a road ace by any means, but we're going to give it a go, give it our all, and see if we can get back in victory lane.
Well, congratulations. I know it's not where you wanted to finish, leading over half the race, but I guess half the race with the extended laps, but still, a job well done for you and your crew. 3rd place, nothing to scoff at, and certainly a whole lot of points for your number 7. Congratulations. We'll be talking to you in Daytona, I'm sure.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Chris Wilhite, a job well done, certainly behind the wheel, Zach. And it's hard to be mad at 3rd place, but I think if there's anybody that should be mad at 3rd place this evening, it is Chris Wilhite. Just the race he had, dominating the show for so long, back and forth with Joshua Watson. It just seemed like the 7 was the car to beat, and suddenly he just wasn't. Well, I'll tell you what, he was the car to beat, and he was beat.
Absolutely. It happens all the time. The fastest car doesn't always win the race all the time. It's just the product of racing. It's what makes racing so amazing. You can't just have someone come into the race and absolutely walk away with it sometimes. It falls down to really the aspect of if there's a caution, if something happens to the track, if something happens to the car, all these different circumstances that can come into play when it comes to a driver being able to walk away from, a dominating performance. And obviously that happened to Will Height today. He still was able to hold on to a solid top 3 position, but obviously he wanted more out of that car, and obviously that car could have, provided him an immense shot at the win. But, next week Indianapolis is a road course. Watkins Glen's going to be a road course. I'm not sure how Indy's going to roll next year. I'm not sure how Indy's going to roll next week. Next year is all up in the air when it comes to how Indy is right now. But road course with these cars, Indy road course especially, it's such a tricky track. It's super, super technical. These guys are going to have to get real nitty-gritty when it comes to the setups. And Watkins Glen, obviously, a track that's been a staple in NASCAR for a while now. It's been tweaked in, really, when it comes to how these guys are going to put these setups forward. And Daytona, obviously, just go fast. Go fast and go up to the front. You've got 3 races left to go, and the playoff cutoff line is probably going to look pretty slim when it comes down after tonight and points get thrown into play.
Once again, going to make sure to tune in. Race 26, Daytona International Speedway. That will be Sunday, August 27th, I believe. We'll be joining you for race 26 to finalize the playoff field, and I'm sure we could very well be looking at a much different playoff picture going into that race. Of course, this was the standings coming into today. Sheffield had trouble there at the end, but is still so safe. I don't think he's too worried. Shaughnessy also had trouble, finished 19th place. That's going to change things. Brian Traeger, not in the field today. That's going to change things. Jason Jackson was fantastic. Finished 10th, a little south of where I think he should have finished in the 86, but did great. Ed Kane, 4th place. We might see him suddenly working into a kind of safe position in that 10 car. Rocky Hartpence was not here in the 15th spot. Actually, neither Hartpence was here, Rocky or Robbie. That's going to change things up. Whitford was great. Brian Watson will get some points, of course, from Jeffrey Marble. So even going into Watkins Glen next week, these guys are going to have a much different picture. They won't be on the broadcast, unfortunately, but I'm sure, not Watkins next week, into Indy next week. These guys are going to have a completely different picture going into Indianapolis, and I'm sure a completely different picture as well going into Watkins Glen. And finally, we'll check back in with them going into Daytona at race 26. Here's an upcoming look at our broadcast here on Pit Stop TV. We talked about them earlier on. Next up, it's EPI Short Track Mondays at USA International Speedway in the virtual Lakeland, Florida. We've been Legends racing for the last month here on iRacing. Now into August, we're going late model racing once again with EPI, pioneering this Short Track Mondays format. Should be a lot of fun. August 7th, tomorrow night, 8:15 Eastern, as we head to the 3/4 mile USA International Speedway. Then, Tuesday evening, we head out to New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the exact same cars, but a completely different group of drivers. It's going to be a new race format as well, so tune in Tuesday to see what the D-Line Racing League has up their sleeve, brought to you by Elevated Performance. And then Wednesday, Zach. That's the one that has me really excited. Last week, unfortunately, due to emergency circumstances, we were not able to cover the season opener for the UFL Elite Series at Daytona International Speedway. This week, very different circumstance. We'll be there at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park for round number 2 of the UFL Elite Series, season number 6 with Gen 4 cars. And well, we have to wait one more week to get our Gen 4 kind of kick started here, Zach, but I am so looking forward to that.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to Wednesday night as well.
Yeah.
Not only will Pit Stop TV be covering the race, we're going to have a Pit Stop TV car in the race. I am going to be taking part in it as a kind of sponsorship provisional. I'm going to be starting off my part-time series schedule for this absolutely incredible series that's going to be running on Wednesday nights with UFL. And short tracks are always big for me. I tend to be one to hang around the short tracks nowadays anyway. So I just love dipping my hand into these leagues and seeing how things go. And, UFL has really impressed me as of last season, and I can't wait to be able to hop in there in a very lovely, lively colored, Pit Stop TV car. Pace scheme to be announced, TBD. But it's going to be great. I loved how UFL operated last season, and I cannot wait to see how it's going to operate Wednesday night. You're going to be in the booth. I'm going to have that on board, and it's going to be a lovely show as I go out there with the best of the best in the UFL.
Yeah, there's a lot of details up in the air about that one that will be announced this week. Some exciting stuff around your tenure this season in the UFL Elite Series. A few races on your schedule. IRP is one of them. Looking forward to it. Wednesday evening, August 9th. Then Friday evening, August 11th, we go racing with the Barber Ford Mustang Club at Watkins Glen International. That'll be a lot of fun as well. Mustangs on a Friday night, a good way to spend your time. And then, of course, Sunday, we come back with the Noble Can-Am Series as they head out to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, if my memory serves correct. So a lot of racing coming up this week on Pit Stop TV. Wouldn't have it any other way, that's for sure. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. It has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure all season long for you guys that we've covered. Having you so supportive of these broadcasts, it really does mean a lot to us here at Pit Stop TV, and I'm sure Buttkicker feel what you've been missing. They certainly have been missing these broadcasts. I think enjoying this one this evening, hopefully, at least that's the goal, and hopefully enjoying it when we come back in a few weeks' time at Daytona. One more look at our partners here at Pit Stop TV this evening. Of course, Whiplash Media, SimCams, ATVO, and CC's Business helping us get to and from the racetrack virtually. And how about those who help us behind the scenes? Of course, Zach Burtis on the call with me this evening, but in audio, ATVO, Whiplash, SimCams, OBS, and iRacing.com, helping make things happen behind the scenes. That'll do it for us from the virtual Brooklyn, Michigan, a packed infield virtually here at Michigan International Speedway. Boy, did this place come through today. Michigan, you did us well. A great race. If you missed it, if you're tuning in for some reason here at the back end, you've got to go all the way back to the beginning and watch all 92 laps of racing. What a great day it was here at Michigan International Speedway. The Shake and Bake Racing Buttkicker Cup Series, they do not disappoint. That is for sure. We'll catch you next time. Daytona International Speedway in a few weeks, but tune in tomorrow night. EPI Short Track Mondays from USA International Speedway. We'll see you there.